Welcome to Boomer Bongo Boulevard, or as the people who get 100,000 hits say, welcome to Boomer Bongo Boulevard. This is our podcast. So anyway,
How you?
we're close, and don't forget to smash that subscribe button or the like button, or just hit it. We need a couple more subscribers. We're almost to 30. We need to get 30
Yeah,
at least. You folks hit it
We're gonna
just
be
for
there one of
practice.
these days.
Yeah, pretend it's a channel that you really like and hit it. But today, as we're talking about growing up in the boomer generation, one of the big things, I think this is getting lost, Ron, and I think it's sad. It needs to be rediscovered.
Yeah,
Is that we're going to talk about the character Tarzan.
love Tarzan.
He was, and he was, and we said he said Tarzan in the movies, but I guess people read it say Tarzan, but Tarzan is how I always said it.
Yeah, Tarzan. I don't care.
So, I mean, I guess if you're reading it, you might say Tarzan. I know it's one of those things like when you're a kid, you're reading a book, or when you're growing up, you're reading a book. You read a name and you just kind of come up with a way to say it in your head,
Tarzan.
and maybe years later, you find like Hermione from the Harry Potter series, and uh, one of my daughter's teachers pronounced it. She was reading the book or part of the book to her class, and she pronounced it Hermione. And my daughter comes home and goes, "Oh man, my teacher has no idea how to say Hermione." And I go, "Well, don't correct her. That's just not good politics.
Yeah.
just let it go and chuckle to yourself, and try not to say Hermione when you're in more educated company." But Tarzan is well, Edgar Rice Burroughs was the author, and he was incredibly prolific. And they made movies, and the movie making for, I don't know what, 4 or 5 decades was incredibly prolific.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you know what I forgot to look up, Ron, was when the first Johnny Weissmuller Tarzan was.
Johnny Weissmuller was 1932 to 1948, the longest tenured by far.
So,
and holy crap, he made a lot of movies.
Well, and when he got too old to make, just to go on an aside on Johnny Weissmuller for a while, or for a moment, when he got too old to really look like Tarzan, they just created a new series for him that was pretty successful, Jungle Jim.
Well, Jim, yeah.
Jungle Jim for a while.
Where he could wear loose clothes and stuff, and of course, his dad bod,
Dad bod
like
Tarzan.
we all do.
Johnny Weissmuller always kind of had a little bit of a dad bod, even when he was playing Tarzan.
After the first couple ones, and he was eating regular, yeah, definitely. He was pretty, had svelte in the first one or two.
Yeah.
When he was still hungry. But, when you get those regular meals, man, get married, start having kids, man, you're eating at the same time every day. Ain't like you're single, You don't skip many meals.
And in the movies, you bought it because he had Jane and he had Boy.
Yeah.
Jane was a good cook. She'd yell her Jane Tarzan yell, and she would cook old Tarzan up some food, and Tarzan. Now I'm thinking Tarzan. I'll be hopping back and forth between the two pronunciations. But she would.
Here's something that's been bugging me lately. I got to throw this out there. I've just had to think about this, but I've been seeing this a lot lately about looking up Tarzan stuff. People saying, "Well, why does Tarzan wear a loincloth? He was raised by the apes. The apes didn't wear loincloths. Why did he do that?" And I'm like,
"Do you know why?"
"Oh, I know exactly why. Because I read some of the books."
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and explain it.
And of course, he was very observational, and one of his big things was hanging up real high up in the trees and checking things out. And he would see like different tribesmen going by, and he noticed, like the jewelry they wore, and he noticed the loincloth.
Well,
and he liked it, and he found one he liked, and he decided to, kill one of them and take it.
You kind of left out one part. You skipped a step.
Yeah.
In the Edgar Rice Burroughs first novel, Tarzan of the Apes. Was it Tarzan of the Apes or Tarzan the Ape Man? Tarzan of the Apes.
Tarzan of the Apes.
Tarzan of the Apes. Tarzan of the Apes. Which is 1912. Tarzan somewhere in there as he was developing into the character he would become, was living with the apes,
Yeah.
thought he was an ape, but at some point realized he was not an ape. And
Yeah.
then he made the connection between himself and these more hairless creatures that were
Yeah.
walking about, and he realized, hey, I'm a man. And and then he goes back to your story. He quite ruthlessly
Oh yeah.
killed an innocent person going by to get their loincloth.
Yeah. His favorite way to do it was he had him had him a noose and would drop it down and
Yeah,
that was his
just
thing, man. And he'd pull him
kill.
up and take what he wanted. That was kind of like one of his hobbies in the book.
And
That's where he got his
when
knife
did
and everything.
when did you read your first novel by Edgar Rice Burroughs? The
Oh
first
gosh,
Tarzan,
I was in the third or fourth, fifth grade or something.
something like that. That was a
Yeah.
little hard to fathom at that age. I think I was more like 13 or 14 when I read my first one, and it's
Probably
probably
because you
I was
hadn't run
probably more like
across it
12.
yet.
Yeah,
I'd already read about five or six by the time I was in the fifth grade.
you know
Because you
the
had them around, so
oh yeah,
we were all good
I had
readers.
thought a few.
So
Yeah, I had a few. Tarzan was in the movies. That's when we first saw him, the old black and white films with Johnny Weissmuller and
yeah.
some other people playing. But honestly, if it wasn't Johnny Weissmuller playing Tarzan, I pretty much turned it off. I would try to sit through one, and the guy would. There was one guy, I can't remember which one. For his Tarzan yelling, he would go, "I'm my more
Oh, that guy
than
was
a
terrible.
friend,"
I think that
and I'm
was
like,
Lex
turn the
Barker.
TV.
I think. Now,
What?
one guy I did like that he didn't make. He only made he made six films in like a 5 year period. But I thought he was great. I've seen several of these, and they are really good movies.
Yeah.
Gordon Scott.
Oh yeah.
He's the only guy who ever played Tarzan as the kind of pigeon English Tarzan and
Right.
the very intelligent Tarzan. They
Right.
kind of
Right.
flipped
Right.
that switch while he was playing it, and he did it both ways. He's the only one that ever did that. He's also the first ever shot in color Tarzan.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Didn't know that.
yeah. And I remember one of the early movies I saw before I ever even saw a Weissmuller movie, and I really liked this one a lot. And this was actually the first color film, was Tarzan and the Lost Safari. And you had that book, and I read it. Edgar Rice Burroughs,
I wonder if I
Tarzan and the
still
Lost
have it.
Safari.
I think I have a lot of those books I had when I was a kid, so I
You
may
may
still have.
have. I remember the cover of it. Had Tarzan. He's like got one foot up on a rock and he's looking down, and there's
Yeah.
like a plane crash, and there's like people
Right.
coming out of the plane. He's overlooking it. I
Well,
remember reading that book and then seeing that movie, and the movie was very close to the book, so I really liked the movie a lot.
you make a good point. For most people, it's the movies and
Yeah,
possibly the book. And if you like the movie, you were fine. The Tarzan series with Johnny Weissmuller and some of the other people, Weissmuller primarily, and you liked it and you watched it and you enjoyed it. And then if you read the book, sometimes it kind of ruined it for you.
yeah,
It didn't for me.
yeah.
And
It
in
didn't
fact,
me
it
either.
made me, it made me like the Johnny Weissmuller version better.
Yeah,
And just for continuity and the movie people realizing, hey, most people that watch these movies are not going to read the books, or a
yeah,
lot of them are not going to read the books. So we're going to keep Tarzan kind of consistent. We've got Johnny Weissmuller here with the Me Tarzan, You Jane, and but he was never presented in the movies as being stupid. The Johnny Weissmuller character, or really anybody
yeah.
playing Tarzan, and but I tell
Yeah,
you what
he's
I
never
like about
stupid. He just didn't always talk well. I mean, because
right.
Weissmuller Tarzan was never stupid ever.
Oh, but what I liked about Johnny Weissmuller and what he captured from the novel, whether he intended to or not, was how savage Tarzan was.
Oh
That
yeah.
Tarzan had no problem killing somebody.
Oh no, absolutely not.
And he would kill somebody just because Jane wanted him dead. If Jane said, kill him, Tarzan, oh, that guy was doomed. He was just going to hit him and kill him and turn around and have breakfast. It wouldn't have bothered him a bit. And that's what you had to get used to. And I'm not holding that up as something to admire, but boy, what a great character
Yeah.
the Edgar Rice Burroughs created, because the
Well,
character
you
Edgar Rice.
introduced me to the Johnny Weissmuller Tarzan, because the
Yeah,
only
well,
ones I was familiar with was the Gordon Scott that I had seen the movie, and primarily the Ron Ely or Eli, however you say his name,
Yeah, I think it's
66
Ely.
to
I believe
68,
it's Ely.
TV series, which they rebroadcast on Saturday morning later on in the 70s, and I watched that religiously, because
And Ron Ely was the
he was the smart Tarzan, and he was like a lot of the Tarzan, he was a big guy too.
right.
Most of the guys that played Tarzan were like, 6'3", 6'4",
Yep.
and Ely he was a huge guy,
Well, they presented him. He was, like you said, he was like the second phase of Tarzan after he had
Yeah,
learned English real well, which happened in the Edgar Rice Burroughs books as
yeah.
well. But Ron Ely never was savage.
Mm,
He was just a little too nice. He was way too
yeah.
nice. I
Well, the
just go
way they
back to
did the
Johnny Watson.
story, because they do the introduction on the season one starting where he's talking about how he went to and lived in civilization and he got tired of that and he decided to come back to Africa.
Right, right, right,
And so that made him more. And they had him like in modern times. It was like apparently it was set like in a pretty new African nation that was kind of
right,
up and coming, and
right.
they always had kind of stuff like that, and they really modernized it
Yeah,
quite a
I
bit,
just,
you know.
I never,
No,
I never care. I like Tarzan, the guy who really didn't. He knew he was a person. He knew
yeah,
he was a human, but he really wasn't that crazy about humans. He
yeah,
actually liked the apes better. It was the
yeah.
apes,
He liked the
Jane,
animals and
and
everything
his
better than he
kids.
did the
Yeah.
humans.
Oh yeah.
True.
And it wouldn't take much for Tarzan just to walk away from those guys. He would just threw them in, and that's what I liked about it. I liked it. Maybe I liked it too much. I'm going. Yeah, that's my attitude. There's a lot of people that like their dogs better than do any people. So Tarzan just fit
Well,
right
yeah,
through.
I feel that way a lot of times. I mean, they just seem like they're better.
Yeah. Well, Tarzan had those superpowers too.
Be
In the
able to
books, he
call
was just super.
all the animals and stuff to
He
him.
could talk to animals. He was Doctor Doolittle with a
Yeah,
loincloth.
before there was one.
Yeah, it was Doctor Doolittle, and he did most of it with one word in the movies, Ungawa.
That's right.
What did you get from Tarzan? Well, I got that it's fun to run around in a loincloth. I got that the tough guys get the cute girls. I got that it's fun to stand up for yourself. Elephants are a lot of fun. I always loved when Tarzan got on the elephants and came riding to the rescue at the
Yeah.
end because Tarzan, he knew, hey, if I really need to take care of people, I'll just run a herd of elephants through their village and
Well,
everything will
we
be
talked
okay.
about this earlier in the week.
Or their camp.
It was an easy like hero to play by yourself.
Oh,
You
sure.
didn't need a lot. All you needed was a good warm day, pair of shorts. You were
That
good
was
to go.
it. Yeah. Climb a tree.
Yeah.
Good excuse to build a tree house.
I remember my Tarzan knife was just a stick that I had got a knife and coincidentally a knife and sharpened up, but and cut it in half and turned it into a blade. And
Ah,
had it all painted and stuff and looking cool. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and I
I
just
never,
stick that in my belt, and man, I was good to go.
we never really built a tree house. If we'd really been inspired by Tarzan, we would have built a really
I
intricate
always
tree
wanted to
house.
do one, but best I ever did was throw a couple of boards up across the
Yeah,
stems, and
yeah, me
drop some
too.
nails in there. That was about it.
I guess that
That's about as
I guess it shows
ambitious as
our
I got.
our lack of ambition was the
Well, it
defining.
was that, and the fact that our parents would have killed us if we had tried to build one. Never
Man,
would have
but
let us do it.
we really needed to hang a rope where we could swing across the backyard. That I don't even know. We didn't even do that.
Oh, I tell you, with my kids now, I did a rope swing with a tire
Yeah,
for quite a few years, and it took a while for it to break, and it did break eventually. But
yeah,
but the way I got it, I had to get it up over a really big limb. I had like 100 and something foot oak in my backyard,
yeah.
and I was trying to figure out how the hell am I going to get this rope up above the best limb? Because it was like I don't know, 25, 30 feet up there.
Yeah, you got to get it up there to get a good swing.
So, I got some tape and I taped a baseball to a rope and I threw the baseball over the limb,
Man,
and
that's
pulled it
ingenious.
down and I just kept, doing knots and pulling it up and
Yeah.
doing a knot and pulling it up. And I had about 3 or 4 rounds around that thing. And that thing lasted for what, 5 or 6 years, I think,
Wow.
maybe longer.
Well,
And the kids loved it because it was long and boy, it was
Tarzan,
really swung a big circle.
the thing was when Tarzan was building his treehouse, all he had to do was like hand a rope to one of the chimpanzees, and they would
They
like
just
go up.
they went to town.
Cheetah'd go up there.
Yeah,
The
I can
gorillas would
call
go
the
up there.
bats now. I was kind of famous with my friends for summoning bats to come and fly to me, which I did this right here. I don't know if you can hear this, but it was a sound like this with my fingers. I go,
Oh, really?
yeah. I don't know if you can hear the little, but yeah, I would
Okay.
stick my hand out and do that, and around dusk and stuff, and the bats would come up and
Hey, since you brought it up,
fly to me.
you brought up sound. Let me see if I can still do my Tarzan yell like I used to be able to do it.
I
I've
won't be
done
able
it
to do
on.
it because I'm outside. So you
Oh,
go for it,
okay.
man.
Here we go. Got to clear my throat.
All right.
I might
Yeah.
really mess up. How was that?
Almost as good as Kel Burnett.
Oh no, I'm better than Carol Burnett. I'm not better than Johnny Weissmuller, but I'm better than because she never had the rhythm. You ever notice? She never had the rhythm. She would just go,
Oh.
and I'm like, no. You just got to go. You're calling. You're communicating, Carol. You're talking to people. You're talking to the animal.
That's
Here
even better.
I am.
See, that was
Come
even
on
better
over
than
here and
that one.
attack. That's what you're doing.
The hard
And
part is that's
yeah.
the hard part.
Oh, yeah. She did the hard part, but she didn't really give a lot of thought to the rest of it. And Jane
Now, I
kind of had a
remember
good
a
one.
joke from the old Monkey series where there was an episode where it was like an old guy who was supposed to be kind of like Tarzan. I remember you and Randy doing this joke when I was a kid. Was the
I've done
It
that in
was,
a
it was
long
that
time.
old guy, that played like every old guy, but that was like the
Yeah.
fireman on Leave It to Beaver. That guy.
Oh, yeah.
The guy kind of talk like that. That they have every once in a while. Andy Griffith, that guy
Well,
was,
what are you going to
the
do,
Tarzan.
Beaver?
Yeah, the Tarzan character when they were on a deserted island or something. But that was a joke the whole show.
The thing about Tarzan, what you were talking about him inspiring us, but I could never bring myself to run around without shoes on.
Yeah,
And
that was tough. I
wondered,
couldn't do that.
I often wondered how he ran through the jungle and didn't step on a rock. I mean, just
Yeah.
to be completely realistic, every once in a while he should have jumped about 10 feet in the air and done a flip. Oh, another sharp rock. Because
Well, I
he
was
never
reading
even
some stuff about Ron Ely when he did the series. They designed some slip-on shoes that kind of looked like he was barefooted.
Yeah.
Made it a lot easier for him, and they had to kind of get hold of him and pull him back because he was big on doing a lot of his own stunts, and he got pretty jacked up a few times.
Right.
Like wrestling some, lions and stuff like that. He got pretty cut up, and
I'm not gonna.
yeah.
I don't know how anybody would ever think that was a good idea.
Now here was an interesting thing I found out. Now, some people may remember this guy, Mike Henry. He's coincidentally he's best known to be, Junior in the Smokey and the Bandit, which kind of ruins his Tarzan movies. But he actually made 3 Tarzan movies.
Oh yeah, he does have a Tarzan look. Now that you mention it,
because he was like a professional football player and stuff. He was a big guy,
Right.
But he kind of ruined himself with the "I'm sorry, Daddy," for some. But, you can't really see him as Tarzan anymore after you see that.
Jackie Gleason didn't ruin too many careers, but
he was supposed to be the TV Tarzan.
Oh,
but because they made those movies, he made them 3 like back to back to back in 1965, and they released them in 66, 67, and 68 in the theaters while the TV show was on.
Right.
And he was supposed to be, starring in the TV show, but he kind of got a few injuries because, I guess from, repetitive type injuries from, filming 3 back to back to back. It was pretty taxing, and he was just like, man, I'm done.
Yeah. It would be dangerous.
Yeah.
At the very
so he didn't want to do the TV series, so that's how Ron Ely ended up with it.
Oh, just swinging on the vine probably burn your hands up.
Oh
You
yeah,
couldn't do too
he
many
like
takes.
filmed some of them like in India and so and all this
Yeah.
stuff. He was
Yeah.
like going all over the world like a deadgum James Bond movie or something.
So let's
Pretty
stop for a
exhausting.
second. Let's all the different media that Tarzan was in. We've said the
Oh
movies,
yeah.
and the movies lasted. I guess the last real Tarzan movies maybe in the 80s,
No, the
something like
last
that.
one was in the 2000s. It was like that. I can't
Lord
remember the name, but it
Greystoke,
had like Alexander Skarsgård.
was that Lord Greystoke?
No, it was. Gosh, I forgot to look it up because I didn't really, go that far. I kind of
Well,
stopped with about you know the '60s and stuff. But yeah, I saw that movie and that was like I think it was like Tarzan, Lord of the Apes or something like
yeah,
that.
something.
And that and I liked that one because they had a lot of it be a lot of the jungle action and he had a lot of savagery in it
Well,
and they did
I'm
the
not.
ape for a while and it actually was pretty good.
I'm not going to say that they. I shouldn't have gone with the latest one, but it kind of stopped the next one being fairly close to the
Yeah.
last one, probably in the 70s, and
Yeah.
and, and
Oh
after
yeah,
that,
as far as
you
like
had
being a regular occurrence, yeah.
yeah, you do go 10 years without one, but
Well,
you
after
had
the TV series, it just wasn't, it didn't have the same impact in the
right,
theater anymore.
right.
Don't forget your
Well, you had TV. I mean, you had the movies, you had TV,
Yeah.
you had the Disney cartoon, which is kind of a separate category. Don't forget the Tarzan comic strip that appeared in the papers, which
Well, I was going to
probably.
mention also the Saturday morning cartoon done by Filmation from '76 to '80.
Oh, that's right.
That is
And
credit. It's Tarzan, the Lord of the Jungle, and every one of those episodes are on
well,
YouTube. Very easy to find, and they're
well,
really
I
good
didn't think
because they're
about that.
based highly on the books.
Well, could you count George of the Jungle? It was a satire on the Tarzan character, right?
Yeah,
And then you had radio back in the
yeah,
days of the radio serial. There was a
yeah. There was a
Tarzan
radio
radio
serial in
serial.
the '30s, I
Uh,
think, from what I
yeah.
read.
Uh, Gold Key Comic Books had a Tarzan comic book
Yeah.
series that ran for a couple of
Oh, and
decades.
DC and Marvel did Tarzan in the '70s. Both
References.
of
Yeah.
them did.
I mean, it was hard to. So I don't
And
know if
some of
there
the
was
art was
anything.
incredible. Some of my favorite art. It was a really good artist. I've never talked about him before, but he's like a favorite of mine. Joe Kubert.
Hmm.
Kubert with a K
Hmm.
was a very well known Tarzan artist. Very, very good. He was a lot like one of my top three favorites, Jim Aparo, who drew Batman a lot in the '70s.
Yeah, he did have a
Brave and the
Batman
Bold
vibe to him.
primarily was what he did, but
Yeah.
yeah, he was very similar to Kubert.
And I
Really,
guess
really well defined, human bodies and all that stuff. Really good.
direct ancestor Tarzan was also a direct ancestor to the Phantom.
That's correct. Yeah,
They
I've
gave
forgotten
they
about
gave
that.
gave Tarzan 6 guns and a little more superhero type costume, and you had the Phantom, right? And a
Yeah,
couple rings, with skulls on them, so when you
yeah.
punch somebody, it made an indention, and everybody know who.
There's a
Leave
scene in
evidence
that movie
behind for
didn't
the
do any
police.
better because I kind of actually liked it. It just
The Phantom's kind of
missing
stupid.
something.
You don't want to leave evidence behind for the police. You see the little imprint, you go, "Yep, that was the Phantom."
You might as
We're
well have
after you now,
a ring
buddy.
that said "I did it" and have your
Yeah,
address on
yeah, that's just good for warnings to your enemies, but
it.
otherwise
Yeah.
not. And I don't know Tarzan. Oh, you know what? We left out too. As far as Tarzan goes, there's a lot to leave out and a lot to
Yeah.
add.
Oh
But
yeah.
the great swimming scenes that Johnny Weissmuller had in
Oh,
his Tarzan
absolutely.
movies, because he was an Olympic swimmer,
Mhm.
and Crab was as well, Buster Crab,
Yeah.
and Tarzan. Of course, Tarzan would be a great swimmer.
Oh, they
Why
tried like
wouldn't he?
crazy to get Mark Spitz after he won those 7 gold medals
That's
to be
right. That's
Tarzan,
right.
but
He did not have.
I couldn't see that.
He didn't have a voice for it.
Yeah.
If you remember, Mark Spitz talks a little like this. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
really
He
great to
wasn't,
win it.
he wasn't the manliest guy around.
He's squirrel. He's just kind of a squirrel guy. But anyway, I think Tarzan was influential. Any boomer growing up knows all about Tarzan.
Oh
Saw
yeah.
Tarzan movies, and something we felt like we need to mention and go into some depth with. And I'm glad we did, Ron.
Oh,
By
we
the way,
love
it's my brother
Tarzan.
Ron. Ron.
On top of that, I mean, Tarzan's
Yeah.
one of my all-time favorite characters. Very underused character. Somebody could do it well still.
Yo.
There was a few series in the 90s, I remember, and there was a guy who played him in several series. He's kind of underrated because I remember watching a few of these episodes. He wasn't bad. His name was Joe Lara. I think he's dead now, but he did like 2 or 3 Tarzan series that were, they were kind of cheaply done in syndication, but he wasn't bad.
How long would you have to hang out in a playground nowadays, though, before you heard a kid rip out a Tarzan yell?
Yeah, forever.
Forever. Hey,
Yeah.
when we were growing up, how long would you have to wait?
About 2 seconds. The first time some kid got up on the monkey bars, that would be about the end of it.
Let it go. And our world is the poorer for it, Ron. That's my final word.
Yeah. Tarzan and Zorro need to make big comebacks.
We can make a list. Heroes, old-time heroes need to make a big comeback.
Right.
The Lone Ranger, Zorro, and Tarzan teaming up.
Oh, man. Lone Ranger
for a jungle adventure.
Starving for a good remake.
Yeah.
Because, we were excited about that one in 1981, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
Because they kept going, old Tonto, he had a plan. They were going to get to General Lee. Oh, I'm sorry.
Cut this camera off, Ron. We're done here.
We didn't want that,
We're done here.
Johnny Depp with a dead bird on his head, and that moron playing the Lone Ranger who was, they made him like a dumbass. I mean, come on.
The actors didn't do their research.
It's like the Lone Ranger,
Yep. Good night, Ron.
Good night.
We're done. Okay.